All right, welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. And as you are joining in, just to let us know in the chat where you're joining us from, I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to get connected. It does look like we are connected on LinkedIn, but I am not sure. Let me see here. Okay. I think we've got. Okay. I'm not sure if we're connecting on Facebook or YouTube right now. It looks like we may have a little bit of issues going on. I apologize for that. We'll add this video to YouTube then after the fact. But for those of you joining us on LinkedIn, welcome. We're happy to have you. If I am new to you and you are new to me, let's have some introductions. My name is Beverly Smith. I am the founder of Career Success Strategies. And as the former owner of a staffing and recruiting firm, I know firsthand what hiring managers are looking for. And I now use that knowledge to help mid, senior, and executive level professionals build out their resumes, help them with their LinkedIn branding, their job search and interview strategies, all so that they can land the career of their dreams. So last week, we talked about avoiding resume flags and how to get noticed and not be overlooked because of red flags your resume may be giving off. And so if you miss that episode, make sure that you go back to my YouTube channel and catch that. And I'm going to see if I can put that up here on the screen. Okay, it is at Beverly Smith Resumes. The link is right here below. Go and catch that. You'll need to click on the live tab. All the videos, except for obviously this one, are going to be under the live tab, and you can catch those there. So, but that was a really good episode. We'll give you a lot of great information, especially for those of you who have really long, lengthy careers and you've got some concerns that people may be overlooking you because you are too old. I'm here to tell you you're never too old to go to work, and we've got some good tips and tricks on that. So today, though, moving forward, I have a special guest with us, and joining me today is Jacob Stripling. We are going to be discussing what recruiters want you to know and how to work with recruiters. And Jacob himself owns a recruiting firm. And just let me tell you a little bit about Jacob's background. Jacob is a native of Little Rock, Arkansas, and he is passionate about contributing to the growth and success of businesses in his hometown and beyond. He is a proud alumnus of Harding University, where he earned a degree in business while playing baseball for the Bisons, exemplifying his commitment to teamwork and excellence. Jacob began his career at Tech Systems and as a global IT recruiting and service leader, where he spent 4 years mastering both client and candidate sides of recruitment. In October of 2019, he launched Future State Careers to deliver exceptional direct placement recruitment services. Now celebrating 5 years of success with Future State Careers, Jacob specializes in connecting top talent and with opportunities in accounting, finance, and the IT sectors. While based in Little Rock, his reach extends across the country. Jacob's mission is simple yet profound: to ensure every person he engages with feels valued, heard, and served with the utmost professionalism. His dedication to providing an unparalleled level of service has earned Future State Careers a reputation of excellence and integrity in the recruitment industry. Whether partnering with clients to build stellar teams or guiding candidates to fulfilling careers, Jacob is driven by a desire to create meaningful and lasting connections. So, Jacob, welcome. I'm so excited we finally got together and made this happen.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was the best intro. No one's ever said anything that nice of me.
Well, it's all true, and I'm really excited. I think so. A few weeks ago, I had another recruiter who is also a former Bison football player on, Michael Cindric, and so I think it's kind of fun that all three of us have ties to Bison athletics, and had a good career there with our sports, our athletic careers, as well as managing to graduate too.
Well, and I've got in-laws in Searcy, so I'm up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. You're still around a lot with the
I'm
Bisons.
on the football team. So.
And I happen to know your in-laws as well as your parents very well, so I think highly of them. They were my friends when I was at Harding, so it's great. It's great that they continued the tradition, and that you and a couple of your sisters went to Harding as well. So,
Going there right now.
Well, let's jump in, and we've got a lot. I'm so excited about this topic because obviously, with that being my background, I feel like, there's probably some misconceptions that job seekers have about working with recruiters, and would like for you to talk a little bit about what those are, as well as some of the benefits that these job seekers can find when they do work with someone like you and your team.
Yeah. So as far as misconceptions go, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts as well, since you've got a lot of years of experience in it, but most of our misconceptions come from the candidate side. So it's people saying, so we have to pay you, or, how do you guys get paid? Is our business with you? Are you representing us? Are you basically a free, an agent of ours? No, our business is with the company. They're the ones who pay us, who hire us to help them fill the roles. But I do always like to make it very clear that we take candidate advocacy extremely seriously. Obviously, we're very loyal to the companies that we work with as well, but a big company doesn't have a whole lot at risk when they're, going through the interview process with somebody. They pick them or they don't. They're still kind of the same. But a candidate, a lot of times, it can feel very lonely, like you're very siloed. The stakes are much higher. So we always like to make sure that the candidates know, we're definitely working with the company, but we want to make it extremely clear that we're a major advocate for you under all. So
yes, definitely. And we saw some of the same, even to the extent that when we started our staffing firm back in the 90s, we were told to call it a staffing company, a staffing firm, or something like that, not use the word agency, because agency kind of indicated that you represented the job seeker. And you think about, in sports, you pay a sports agent to represent you to different ball teams. Right. That used to be the model of our industry, back even in the 70s and the 80s. And so in the 90s, there was such a big trend away from that I can't even think of anyone that does it the other direction now.
Yeah. I mean, in the 70s and 80s, it's kind of interesting to hear, when there was no internet, no cell phones, you would have somebody come into the office, sit in there while the recruiter was making calls to try and set up interviews for you during the day. It's much different today. But another misconception that we hear a lot is, we always talk about what are you looking for as far as salary goes. And a lot of times people might be a little bit hesitant to talk about that because they think that we're trying to, push them down to a certain salary level or something like that. And sometimes within staffing, that can be the case, but a good recruiter is always going to be trying to get you as much as they can.
Right.
Just to clear the misconception that obviously the more money you make, the more money we make. So we're always trying to get you as much as possible, obviously within reason, to keep you competitive, to make sure that you have the best chance to get the job. But there's never a place where we're we'll be very open where it's I don't think you can get more than whatever it is, X amount. We always try. So that's another one. People were, if they were more aware of the fact that, no, we make more when you make more, then there'd be much more of a, freedom to say.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too, just once you start putting them at ease and build that rapport with them, they'll be more forthcoming in that whole salary thing, because it's true. And I mean, it does you no good to send them somewhere where the salary is too low for them, So it's so important for them to be upfront and frank on
the thing that we like to tell candidates too is a lot of times there may be somebody who it's hey, I'm not looking, but I would be for the right price. Well, what is that right price? Like,
Yeah.
especially when we have a good relationship with a company, we can go and say, hey, this person would not leave unless it was for this number. I know that's really high, but we think they're really good. Like, that may still be worth the conversation, even at that price. So as a candidate, I mean, I always think from my perspective, everybody has a number. Even if you have a company and you've got like, a lot of times I'll be talking with others and they're like, not me, I own the place. And I'll be like, okay, for $20 million, it's like, you bring me $20 million. So that's what we always want to tell with candidates. It's like, just because this job isn't paying that, there's always so much negotiation. It's always a conversation. So that's another thing that I always want to make sure we clear up with people is if you have a number that you want and you think that it's ridiculous, maybe it's not. Like, so.
Yeah. It's finding the right opportunity. So, yeah. Any benefits that you want to talk about?
You get a really good friend. That's the main benefit.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the main benefit, I mean, I believe there's several. Obviously, I'm biased. But, I mean, you have a career resource for your whole career. If you find a good one and you stick with them, you have a career resource that goes with you, not just now, but, through all your jobs. I mean, it's not like, we're putting people somewhere and then years down the road, we're pulling them from that and moving them somewhere else. But a lot of times there'll be somebody where it's like, hey, you placed me, 6 years ago. I actually switched jobs and now I'm at another place and I'm kind of open to looking again. What are you seeing? And a lot of times the resource can also be just giving them advice on where they are at the moment. So it's like, I'm not even looking for a job, but I'm really unhappy with pay. Well, do you like the company you're working with? Yeah, I love it. Well, then let's just talk you through on how to have that conversation with your manager about getting a raise. Like, we have those conversations all the time. Let us,
That's so good.
And sometimes as a recruiter, it can even come and just hyping somebody up and being like, you deserve it. Like, go in there, have the conversation. Like, your manager appreciates you. You would be a hot commodity in this market. Don't be afraid to go and really lean on the value that you bring. So
yeah,
I think even when you're not looking is to have somebody that can help you through those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think also too, kind of circling back to the whole pay aspect, being able to have someone on your side negotiating for you. Like, I think it's so important that job candidates understand that, like, if they're going at it alone, they're going to have to negotiate that salary alone. But here they've got an ally that you probably negotiate more salaries in 1 month than they will ever negotiate in their entire career.
Right.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Also, a lot of times, like with, we're able to go in and not only advocate for them, but also let them know, like, if it's a client who's been really upfront and open with us, we're able to say, look, I know this is the salary, but like, trust me when I say, and we'll walk them through, like, here's the bonus structure. Here's how quickly they promote people. Here's what their last year has looked like with the 2 people that they've hired previously with us. So we can show you the ladder of progression and how quickly you can make more money. And so there's things like that too, where it's like just having that advocate. But again, if you're going in alone by yourself, like, it's hard to know those things unless you just have a hiring manager who's really forthcoming with all that information. And a lot of times overlook, you won't even think to give that information because it's like, well, you either like the job or you don't. But so pay is a big one.
You had a great post on kind of a related topic earlier this week where you talked about how, there's kind of a whole generation of people that really don't understand the whole 401k ball game. And so being able to have someone like you come in and explain how these other benefits are going to be added, not just not just that paycheck, but added to their bottom line in the long run is, I think, a huge part to working with someone like you.
Yeah. I mean, that's from the company side. I mean, there's just a lot of times where by no fault of their own, and it's not even that they're overlooking it. It's just, you don't think about it. It's like, here's the salary. We've got great benefits. Here's the benefits package. We've got, UAMS has a 10% match. Like, that's a massive, massive deal. But if you have somebody who, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be somebody younger in their career, but a lot of times somebody out of school, I know for me personally, when I came out of school and it was like, here's our 401k match, I was like, how can I put the least amount of money in that so I can have the most amount of money in my pocket? So those types of things, I think as a company, you just assume, like, if you're a place like UAMS, we have a 10% match. It's like, surely you understand what that means. That's a lot more money in your pocket. You're looking, you'll stay here for 20 years, you're going to be a millionaire but a lot of people don't. And also it's like, especially out of school, you could have somebody that'll take $4,000 more in a salary than a really great 401k or a pension, which pensions are borderline unheard of now. But there are still several companies who do it. And every time I talk to one, I'm like, well, you guys have a pension? Like, why is this not on the top, even above your job description title? It should say, you have a pension, So,
Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk about what candidates should be looking for in a recruiter, and how can, like, if I'm a job seeker, how can I tell if a particular recruiter or a particular firm is going to be a good fit for me?
I mean, this to me is the most simple of all of it, where you're just looking for somebody who values your career and your life and your circumstances above their own needs. Like, your life is more important to us than our bottom line and our business and our, like, we're always going to do what's best for you. So you want a candidate who cares more about you than themselves when it comes to it. And the tough part about that is the only way you find that out is by working with one and by giving it time and spending time with them. Although I do think, especially in the recruiting world, I feel like recruiters, you can tell who they are pretty quickly. A lot of them are, pretty conversational. So you can a lot of times tell the type of person that somebody is. But I think when you find somebody like that, I mean, somebody that would send you to another recruiting firm if they don't have something that's good for you, it's like, let me refer you over to a competitor of ours because we don't have anything that would fit for you right now. So maybe they do. Like, or one of the things that we always do, and this is, I mean, it's tough, but it's just obviously doing the right thing, is, hey, we're giving you advice on how to land a job that may be going against the one that we have, because you've indicated to us that you're really excited about that one. So if there's something we can do to help you land that one, we want to do that. Like, it's, at the end of the day, I mean, it just goes back to me of doing the right thing, but at the same time, doing the right thing does the best business in the long run. So
yeah,
I think it's finding that type of recruiter, not the person who's just looking to put you in a job as quickly as they can. I think you can also see those from just the person that listens. And a lot of times in an initial call, you get the breakdown of what somebody's looking for, and hopefully you dive really deep into that, so that once you send a job, you're always at least, at the baseline of what they said they want, if obviously not above. But when you have somebody who, hey, we talked about this, you are doing something that's contrary to what I said pretty quickly, it's usually a really good sign, where it's like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So this is probably not going to be changes in the long run. So I
think so. And I think also, you mentioned this, having someone that's going to have that really deep conversation and take a deep dive into what it is you're looking for, is going to be really huge. Versus that, here, we're just going to kind of shuffle you through and, throw something up on the wall, hope it sticks, kind of thing. And I know that there are those in the industry, and you just, I almost say you have to trust your gut. Referrals too are big. Who do you know that's working that?
It can be daunting to go to a recruiter too, because I mean, a lot of times if you're in a place where you're very secure and you've been there for a while and you don't want people knowing, it's like, I understand the daunting aspect of that. So that's when a lot of times referrals are coming in. Or even just, I mean, I'm a big advocate of just looking at their LinkedIn, looking at their website, even if you can get some type of check on the type of person that you're dealing with. And you can always be very vague too. I mean, go into a recruiter and say, listen, I'm not necessarily looking right now. I'm curious to see what else is out there. I have a friend who used a recruiter and it went well. So I just wanted to see, just keep it very surface level at the beginning. And then also, when you're looking for a good recruiter, you obviously want somebody who's knowledgeable. I always like to, there's fantastic people who have been in the role for, 3 or 4 months, but the longer that somebody sticks with it, obviously, probably the more experience they have, the more just overall picture they can give you. So I really like when candidates will kind of grill the recruiter, be like, can you give me more information on this? Can you give me more information on this? What's the hiring manager like? Why are they hiring for this role? What's gone on the last year? The deeper you can get. And I feel like that's another way. If you have a recruiter who's just like, I don't know. Well, can you find out? We don't have a great relationship with them, so I'll see if I can find out. It needs to be like, hey, if we don't know, we can find out in like 30 minutes. We'll call them right now, get you the answer, get it over to you. So that's another way that I think you kind of dictate when you're talking to a recruiter, if like, this might be a really good one.
I love that. So let's segue into how can, whether you are a client company or whether you're a candidate, let's talk about good practices, best practices for building that rapport, that relationship, really so that no matter which side you're on, you can get the best bang for your buck, so to speak, with working with a recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, this one, not to oversimplify again, but I mean, part of it's just time, spending time with them. I mean, like from doing this, for years, companies like, especially not on the front end when it's like a cold, hey, can I get 5 minutes of your time to meet with you? They don't always love that, obviously. But once you're doing business with them, it's like, hey, you like the occasional lunch, you like being taken to dinner, you like going to play golf, you like doing whatever it is, so that we can continue to build a relationship. Because a lot of our clients have really become friends, where it's like, this is a very comfortable relationship now, which is awesome. That's when business is like, it doesn't feel like business anymore. But I think it's time. And I feel like a lot of times the best relationships that we have and that I've seen from other recruiting companies is when you're just brutally honest about everything that's going on in it. Like, I mean, critical critiques, respectful, critical critiques, I think go a long way when it's like, how are we going to know? I mean, we believe we're doing a good job and we're working hard, but it's like, you may not love what we're doing this little thing. And we're able to change so many things we're doing. These processes aren't set in stone. We can do things differently. So I feel like just a commitment to that feedback. And, I mean, especially that goes for candidates too, when it's like, candidate doesn't tell us, well, I'm not super thrilled with that aspect of this. Like, if we don't know that, how are we going to, we won't be able to address that, or we won't be able to say, well, then definitely don't take this job. Like, we have felt that way, like this will be a horrible thing for you. So, and some of that, a lot of that's on the recruiter to make sure that we are probing a lot and asking deep enough questions to get them to think about those. Because especially if you haven't worked with a recruiter, it's like, I don't even know what information you need to do your job. So a lot of that's on us. But as you get further and further in the relationship, just the more honest feedback you have, the better. And then, that's why the clients that you've had for 10 years never leave, because like, we got a perfect thing going. So why would we want to start over? Like, it's a pain to get to where we are.
Absolutely. I've trained you the way they want you, and all of that. I think it's so important too. One of the things that I used to see is we get so in our little world doing what it is we do it day in, day out. And you have to sometimes stop and realize, if you're a job seeker, you're not looking for a job every single day, every year, hopefully. And, so being able to educate them through that process and explain to them, okay, this is how you can best communicate with me. If I need to hear back from you as soon as you walk out of that interview. I need to get your feedback, and I want to know your thoughts. Don't fail to communicate with me, or here's the best way to find me, and that going above and beyond with that communication piece is going to be really, really huge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And also making sure that you're able to communicate the value of why we're doing those things. So it's like, I've heard, everybody's heard recruiter horror stories of like, they told me to do this and they did this to me, and, crazy. But a lot of the stuff we say, it's like, hey, if you wouldn't mind giving me a call after the interview, why do we want you to do that? Well, as soon as we get your feedback and we can get theirs, we can start moving quickly. We can move quick, whatever it is. Being able to clearly communicate the value on why we're asking for these certain things is big. And I think a lot of these things too, from all aspects, the company or the recruiter or the candidate, like just not letting your pride get in the way of any of these steps, where it's like, it's like, hey, we all want the same thing. Everybody wants, we want to fill this role, but we want to get you the best job possible. And that's all that you want. So it's like, if we can lower the pride and the, our egos and things like that, can sometimes get in the way. I feel like that's conducive for success too. But
yeah. So true. Okay, let's talk about this. I think this is such a great question. If candidates could listen in on your initial calls with hiring managers, what do you think would surprise them most about what companies are really looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think this would necessarily surprise them the most, but I think it probably would surprise more than not, is just the lopsided preference to culture over skills. Just, I mean, like, over the years, just hundreds of people that were not necessarily technically qualified for the job, who are just super standout culture people, just, critical thinkers and positive people and great team players and all the cliche things that you have. But I mean, the people who are like that. Those people, I mean, those are the ones that when you get, it's like before we even start talking about your experience, I know you're going to get this job if you want it. It's like those ones in the companies, when we talk to the companies, it's like you have a job description and you have all these experience pieces that they're saying that they need. But then at the end, they're like, but if you have somebody great, like really push for them and we'll go ahead and interview them anyways, because everybody wants that. I mean, it's like our company would want it, and yours is just, so I think that's a big one. And I think if people, there's a tendency to overanalyze job descriptions and say like, well, I don't have 5 years of experience in this, or I don't have, a lot of times on the job descriptions, some companies are very thorough about it. This is not a blanket, or it be a blanket statement, but it's not always true. But a lot of times job descriptions can just be thrown together. It's like, okay, we need to have a job description to post so we can get the process started. And it's like, and then you'll have a candidate sitting there being like stressing out because they don't have the, the perfect experience. And it's like, they don't even know. They'll be like, wait, did the job description say that? So we will talk to the companies who it's like, okay, so right here, you said they need 5 years experience in this. And they'll be like, no, I don't even know who put that on there. So that's something that candidates would be surprised about too, is sometimes there's some uncertainty on what you're looking for.
So both of those things too kind of go back to why having that long-term relationship with a recruiter for a client company can be so huge, because if you know them that well, when you interview candidates who's going to be a culture fit and who's not. They maybe have every skill in the book that matches up perfectly to that job description, but you're like, yeah, that's not going to work out over there at all, or they're going to hate this. And I can submit you, but I don't think that you're going to like this company. The other thing on that as well is just exactly what you said. How many times have I seen that where it's like, okay, tell me which of these 17 skills is the most important, give me your top 5. What will you absolutely turn down? Which, it's funny because one of the things I talk to my prospective clients about is I will illustrate how when we used to send over just a resume and just kind of cringe and go, they're not gonna bite on this one when they look at that resume. And we would actually create a profile and we would take those top 5. Okay, you said you had to have these, and over here, here's how this person matches up, and we send that to them before they even take a look at that resume. So that you're just like, no, it really is a fit.
Well, and also this is a little bit off topic, but that's a big thing with recruiters. I mean, there's so many times, and this is again goes back to it's our job to recognize this up front in the resume. But there's so many times where we'll send somebody over, in the past where a client will be like, well, they don't have XYZ skills. And we'll be like, no, they definitely do. We talked about it in the thing. It's like, why isn't that on the resume? And that's our job. Like, hey, let's make sure we put that on there before we send you, when you have it. We don't want to lie. But that's what we always tell. We're like, hey, we're not looking to mislead. We don't want to lie. But if you have experience in it, it's got to be on your resume. It seems simple. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it kind of goes back to the whole resumes now are so tailored to the positions. And if you have just a broad generic resume, a lot of times it's going to confuse the reader and minimize the chances that they would even consider you, even when they've got a recruiter advocating for you. Right. So having that resume and just tweaking it. And, one of the things we work with our clients on is after the fact, we teach them, here is how you can tweak this resume to a specific job posting, So.
I think I understand, some empathy for the job seekers. A lot of times when it's like, I've been looking for a job for months, I've applied to hundreds or thousands of, you'll see that on LinkedIn relatively often. And so it's like, but, knowing the types of jobs that you're going for and being able to tailor those to where you don't have to feel overwhelmed, like every single job I'm going after, I have to tailor it. Although if you have one where it's like, I would really love to get this one, it's like, well, then let's really take some time and make sure it's catered to this specific one at least, Absolutely.
So let's talk about for someone who may be currently employed, and we kind of touched on this just a little bit earlier, but they're employed, they're maybe wanting to start exploring their options. Like, what would be their next steps as far as working with someone like you or one of your team members of your company? How would they get that relationship going when maybe they're not really in the market?
Right. Well, again, to me, this goes back to, and again, I'm a little bit biased because, from seeing this side of it, but I am always blown away by people. I'm like, there's no reason for you to not have at least one relationship with a recruiter somewhere that you trust, that can keep their eyes open for you. Like you said, like they're not sitting around looking at jobs every day all year. They're just like, you're working, they're busy. But if you just tell, it's like, hey, listen, what I would like is something that may be unrealistic, but if you see it, let me know. And then we're just, we're the ones who are keeping our eyes open. And then if it comes across our desk and we have a company that reaches out to us or we get in touch with that's looking for that, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest benefits. But in your question of how or what they should do to go about getting in touch with us, I mean, I think it just depends on their level of aggressiveness, maybe that they have as a person. But sometimes it can be as easy as just connect on LinkedIn and then just kind of, maybe like a connection request usually is like, if somebody connects with you, they saw your stuff, they were at least interested enough to connect with you. So that maybe even be a little nudge, like, the old Facebook poke. It's almost like they have like a job poke, be like, hey, I'm not looking right now, but I might be someday.
Yeah.
But I think LinkedIn, again, going back to if the recruiters have content on LinkedIn, then you can tell which ones might align with the way that you like to work, or the type of person that you might like to work with. Websites are a way. Sometimes websites are a little bit tricky. We have a new website that's being worked on for us, that should hopefully be done relatively soon. But it's like, even some of the website stuff, like our website, I don't necessarily think gets across exactly how we want to be perceived. So that's even tough of being like, do that. And then I think it goes back to referrals too. Like you said, I mean, if you have somebody that you trust, and there's a lot of people that I know have at least talked with recruiters. So it's like, if you have a good experience, mark their information down and then reach out about whatever you want to. There's so many things that you can use this for. It's almost like, if you have a financial advisor, it's like, hey, this isn't just about stocks. Like, it's not like, hey, contact me when you want to talk about stocks. It's like, we can do so many different things, like, plan for your future and retirement and look and see, like, whatever it is. But I think that's, if you're working, that's something that's important, where it's like, and don't have just one. I mean, if you have one that you really trust and you're like, I don't want to deal with more, then that's fine. But again, it goes back to like, this isn't about us, this is about you. So like, have more than one recruiting contact that you can keep in touch with. Be like, find what you like, and just have those as, lifelong resources for as long as you need them.
Such a great tip. I love that so much. And it's just like you said, I mean, you may not ever need that resource, but then you've got someone too that you can refer people to, or that type of thing. Also, you may be in a position with your company where they need to work with a recruiter, and now you've got a relationship already established as well. So being able to score some points that way with your present employer, and say, hey, I've got a resource for you, and here, I can vouch for the type of people they are. So definitely.
And I'm also a big advocate of saying, like, if you're in a job, why would you not want to talk to a recruiter and say, am I being paid enough?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Like, good.
Just to have it, because there are people that we've talked to, I mean, so many over the years. And now there's some people, everybody has different priorities. So money is not everything to all people, and that's fine. But to some people, they're like, I would love to be making more money, and I'm not all that thrilled with where I am. So it's like, well, your skill set, if you had any idea, but a lot of people, you're so bogged down with your own work and your own company that you're not able to see what's going on outside. But it's like, I've talked to people who will be, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 underpaid, and it's not close. And there's no offset benefit that should keep them where they are. Or even if they are really happy, it's like, hey, the market is, you should be quite a bit higher. Like, maybe we talk about having that conversation with your boss, and maybe it's not a deal breaker for you, but it's good information to have. And we're not trying to build animosity with anybody about being like, well, I'm not making money, but I know for me, I would at least like to know, things like that. It's like, or just have, keeping, if you'll keep your resume living and breathing, as opposed to waiting until
So
you
true.
need it. It's kind of like me. Like, I mean, we do a lot of our bookkeeping end of year, and I'm like, this would be, way easier if I had just been doing it incrementally, as opposed to just putting it off until it was a giant.
Absolutely. And I'll just add to that. I mean, when it would really be in people's best interest if they would document maybe each month kind of things that happened and things that stood out that they accomplished in their and I think so many people too kind of take for granted those things that they do. They're just like, oh, I thought everybody did that. And you're like, no, that actually is kind of a big deal that you're doing that. And oh, by the way, you're way underpaid too for doing that. So, I remember too that so many of the jobs are never advertised as well.
Right.
So I think there's a misconception that, okay, when I get ready to look, I can just go to, Indeed or to LinkedIn, and I can just pull up the job board and I can apply. And if for those of you that go onto LinkedIn, you can just see right there that how many people have applied. And it's a little bit intimidating and a little bit scary to so many people. And so recruiters, it's like you were saying earlier, things are going to come across your desk that will never get advertised. And that's why the company don't want to advertise them.
Yeah. It's much more common than you think. I mean, I would say it's even closer to the rule than the exception of like, I mean, again, it goes back to, we'll talk to people who are hiring and I'll be like, hey, do we have a job description or would you like us to write one? And they're like, we don't even have one. It's like, but they've been hiring for it. So it's like, if they don't have a job description, it's definitely not posted anywhere. So it goes back to the same thing that you're saying. So that's definitely true.
Gosh, and that's an HR thing. The HR side of me just went, you don't have a job description.
Well, hey, people got a lot to do.
Oh goodness. I know some good HR consultants that you might want to hire.
Yeah. I don't know, and a lot of times too, I mean, we'll talk to companies too that may be like, hey, we're not necessarily hiring for this right now. And this is good for candidates to know. We're not necessarily hiring for this right now, but I think we're probably going to be in 2 to 3 months. So if you could start building a pipeline of this, just talking to candidates, letting them know it's not available yet, but we think it's going to be. So a lot of times they haven't done any of the legwork yet. And so things like that, same thing, where it's like, and a lot of times it lines up well, where somebody's like, hey, I'm not looking now, but we have some changes coming in 3 months that I think I'm probably going to be. And so it's like, well, perfect. We've got a job that in 6 months they're thinking is going to be open. So,
One of the things too, I would add that a lot of job seekers would not really probably understand about the recruiter's role and the different functions that they do is the fact that if you have that relationship, if you kind of have that ongoing presence with them and you're somewhat top of mind or, you network with them, recruiters market candidates a lot and will say, look, I know you may not be exactly looking, but I've got this person over here that I think would make a move if the offer were right. And you're like a matchmaker or a puzzle worker, where you're just putting these pieces together in a way that if you didn't have that relationship, you would never find that position.
Oh yeah. The best ones are ones where it's like, hey, why don't we just set you up on a lunch or a call with this person? Like, there's nothing official. They're not necessarily looking like, let's just, you're great, they're great. I think you guys would hit it off. A lot of times those turn into people taking a job somewhere that was never even a thought before. So you definitely right.
And that kind of goes back to that whole culture fit too.
Yeah. It's somebody we know, this person would kill it with you guys.
Yeah. And as I work with my clients, I tell them, companies really like to hire people that they know or people they know, have that relationship. And so having a relationship with a recruiter or 2 or 3 and just being kind of in their pipeline, they're going to be able to go to bat and vouch for you in a way that like nobody else could unless you know someone working inside that company. So it might be good to find out, what types of companies that they work for. The recruiter, I mean, if you're a job seeker, what type of companies do the recruiters work for? And so if any of those are your target companies that you want to work for, now you know where that is, for sure.
Yeah. And then there's one other thing that I think about a lot that is probably less common here in Little Rock than it is in bigger cities, but there's a lot of companies that we work with who are fantastic companies who you don't even know they exist if you're not looking for them. I mean, just
Wow.
so it's like there will be places where it's like, have you heard of this company? I've never heard of them. It's like, really? Because they've been around for 30 years and like they never have anybody leave, you know?
Wow.
So it's things like that too, where it's, and we really have several of those who it's like, and we talk to them, we're like, you guys got to get the word out there more that y'all are here because y'all are great. People love it here. Like, so that's a big one too. Definitely happens here. And in bigger cities, like I said, you know, I mean, in the bigger cities, you may walk down a hallway in a big building and be like, wow, there's 4 right here I've never heard of that are fantastic. But here in Little Rock, it's not quite like that. But
not quite, but you know, you sometimes you're always surprised. You're like, I didn't even know that company was there. So, and of course that's you know your job to know. And so it's as a recruiter, I remember that would always be kind of surprising to me. It's like, oh, okay. I should know about that company. Let's go back and research them and those kinds of things. So, Jacob, this has been. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one other thing that I think could be a decent tip for anybody who's looking. It goes back to what you were saying a second ago. Sorry to jump around, but whether you're a company or a candidate, I know this can be time consuming and you may not want to do it. Meeting with people in person in our industry goes a long way from the standpoint of them being able to sell you much better. Like if it's me and I believe in myself and I think I could get the job, if we've had a phone conversation or something like that, it just doesn't land quite as hard as if it's like we met with them in person, we took them to lunch, we, you know, got them out to coffee, we did something to where you're able to show your punctuality and your professionalism and your energy. I mean, it's just so hard. I mean, even these types of things, like this is great, but it's like when we have a conversation in person, the energy is even higher, you know, where it's like you can take more. So it's like that's something that I don't know. And the same thing from the company side. We have, when we meet with companies in person and we're able to talk to a candidate about, we've sat in front of them in their office. Here's their demeanor. Here's the way that they, you know, approach things. It goes a really long way. You'll sell a candidate that wouldn't be interested otherwise. I mean, it's happened like that.
So good. Such good advice there. This has really been helpful. And I think for those of you watching, I don't see any comments, but and I apologize if for some reason it's not. It may be on my end since we did have some connection issues. However, if you do have comments and you're catching this on the replay, if you will make sure you tag us, then we will definitely come back and answer, because it looks like we're only on LinkedIn today. So make sure you come and tag us on any questions that you've got so we can answer you, and we'll definitely be checking those out. Also, if you are watching the replay of this, use hashtag replay, and that way we'll know that you did catch this on the replay. So, Jacob, where can people find you? What is the best places for people that want to get in touch with you or want to follow you? Where are the best locations?
I mean, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find my personal page on LinkedIn. My contact information's on there. You can also go to our website, futurestatecareers.com. Find us on there. So
very good. I've thrown that up in the chat so you guys can grab his link to his personal and to Future State, also to Future State's website. So really, really good stuff. I hope that you will come back, because one of the topics that we kind of talked about, maybe talking, having some discussions around, I think is so important. And that is, I want to educate this audience on how you're using LinkedIn. So what kinds of things can we do to help job seekers be more visible to people like you that are looking for them? So many people treat LinkedIn as a static profile and don't ever get back in there. Kind of like you were talking about the living resume. Your LinkedIn needs to be a little bit more active than that picture of you and your wedding 15 years ago. Yeah. And there's just so many things. And I think hearing it firsthand from people that are using the actual LinkedIn version that is just designed specifically for recruiters, Even like I don't use that version of LinkedIn. I do use a paid version, but I know what you see is different than what I see. And so I think that would be really a great conversation for us to tease out and have. So, all right. Well, really good. Hey, just kind of wrapping up here. If you're searching for your next job, I know it can feel overwhelming. And we touched on so many things today that hopefully it's kind of eased your fears. But we don't want you to go at it alone. Please reach out to Jacob or myself. And just specifically, if you're mid, senior, or executive level professionals, my team and I are here to help you craft a custom resume and to guide you through the search process and the interview process. So you can reach out, and I'll throw this up in the chat as well, and book a complimentary consultation with me to learn a little bit more. And I think I've got a banner. Look at that. Scrolling across the screen here, grab that link and definitely reach out to me and get on my calendar so we can have a discussion. You'll find it really educational because, as we've alluded to, obviously the recruiting is my background as well. And while I'm not doing that anymore, I know great people like Jacob as well that I can refer you out to.
You'll never stop recruiting completely.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know about you, but I think the thing that I love the most about recruiting is that whole connection aspect. Just putting those two people together and letting them take it and run with it. And for me in my business, actually connecting the applicants that came in, the job seekers, with the right recruiter in my organization. So it's one of those things that I've tried to maintain in my network, even though I'm not actively recruiting. It's kind of like you said, I never stop recruiting, because if someone tells me I'm looking for this, my very first thought goes, okay, who's filling those jobs? So, Jacob, thank you. Thank you so much. Any parting words you want to share with us?
That was fun. I mean, I know, again, like you said, it's intimidating, but I think having at least one or two recruiters in your corner is a big advantage. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And guys, we will be back next week. And know it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I do have a special Thanksgiving edition, maybe a little briefer planned for you. So make sure that if you're working on Wednesday, or maybe if you're not, just jump on and catch me live and spend a few minutes of your midday with me next week. And I will see you on my next video next week.